Hey everyone, welcome back to JarDev. So this video is a little bit later than I normally would have wanted to do it. In this video I'm going to be talking about my top 5 albums of 2020. Usually I manage to get this video out in usually December of the year it's supposed to be in. For those who don't know, I'll keep this quick. I had surgery near the end of December and I had to go back to hospital at some point after it. So things haven't been great recently, but I'm okay. So that's why this video is later than it usually is, but I love doing this video and the wrestling one, which is still coming. So I wanted to do it anyway, even though it's a little bit late, so that's why it's late. So 2020 was obviously a bit of a weird year for pretty much everything. That includes music. In 2019, in this video of 2019, I said that I managed to go to one concert that year. That was a Periphery concert, it was great. 2020 didn't go to a single concert, as you probably could imagine. I think pretty much all tours stopped around March. I do remember it was like Fit for a King and a couple of other bands, I think Currents was on there, were like one of the last bands to stop doing tours. And they really just wanted to keep going until the last possible moment. But yeah, all tours just stopped in, I think, about March. And so that led to the rise of virtual online streaming concerts, which I am a massive fan of. I believe Trivium was the first band to do it. I bought that ticket because it was the first one and I do love Trivium, and it was awesome. They did a show in Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. Empty room. They had camera crews and everything. They said it was really awkward to do, but that was the first one and people kept doing it. So I saw some really good virtual concerts this year. Seen a couple of bad ones. The Dance Gavin Dance one, the first one they did, was really shit. But there's been some really good ones. Architects doing a show in an empty Royal Albert Hall in England was amazing. And the Motionless in White show I saw was probably my personal favorite of the year. So that's kind of unrelated to my top 5 albums. I just thought couldn't really talk about music in 2020 without talking about what happened in 2020. So I'm gonna jump into my top 5 albums of the year, and then afterwards I've got my Spotify Wrapped. This is my first time having Spotify for a whole year, so I'm gonna watch through that and see how it lines up with my own list. So coming in at number 5, I actually just changed number 5 yesterday as of the time of recording. I had a different album there, and I was like looking through the tracks to see what songs I wanted to put in this video as like the headline songs as my favorite songs, and nothing really stood out, so I took that off and put it in honorable mentions. So my actual number 5 album of the year is Post-Human Survival Horror by Bring Me the Horizon. This is kind of more of an EP, I guess. It's 9 songs, it's pretty short, but it's the best thing they've put out since 2013, I think. So for people who don't know Bring Me the Horizon, they started off deathcore, then they went metalcore, and they were doing really unique metalcore with Sempiternal in 2013, and then they just went full pop with their album after that. Then they went like really electronic-y pop after that, and I hated that last album. So I didn't have high hopes for this, but they put this out near the end of the year, and it opens with just the heaviest song they've done since 2013. And it was awesome. It had some like still poppy stuff, which was pretty good, but it wasn't all poppy. They had an amazing collab with Amy Lee on the incredibly named One Day the Only Butterflies That Are Left Will Be in Your Chest, I think is the full title.
But it feels pretty real when your skin starts to peel from the bone.
But it's a really, really good album. It's got heavy, it's got loads of collabs. It's got a collab with Baby Metal, which I'm a fan of. So it was really, really cool. And a real treat as someone who was a massive fan of Bring Me the Horizon and got really turned off by their new direction they went in. So this gives me hope for the rest of the Post-Human series, because apparently this is just the first installment of it. Okay, number 4, we have Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible by Enter Shikari. Enter Shikari is a electronic influenced post-hardcore band, sort of in a similar situation to Bring Me the Horizon from the previous entry. I loved their third and fourth albums. It was Flash Flood of Color and The Minesweep. The Minesweep is my favorite album by them. Then they put out The Spark a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago, I think, and just didn't do anything for me. I really, it just kind of like washed over me, didn't stick with me at all. Really wasn't a fan of that album. So I didn't have high hopes for this one, but I thought, you know, I really like earlier Bring Me Enter Shikari, so I'll give it a go. And I was blown away. It was really good. It was kind of back to more their stuff that I like. It was a bit closer to the Minesweep than the Spark. So this was a great album. It's probably a little bit lengthy. It's 15 songs long and it's 43 minutes. But it's got like 2 interludes, I think. Yeah, 2 interludes. They don't really need to be there, to be honest. I wasn't a huge fan of those. I think there's one like 4-minute long instrumental song, which is nice, but didn't really need it on there. But otherwise, it's a really solid album. Satellites is such a good song. That's the one that you heard earlier. They're pretty weird. Like, it is electronic influenced post-hardcore, so there is a lot of electronic-y elements, which normally I don't like. I remember the first time I ever tried them, I was like, what the fuck is this? And didn't go back to them for like 2 years, and I tried them again, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool actually. So it won't be for everyone, but I really like this album. Okay, at number 3, we have I Let It In and It Took Everything by Loathe. So I remember last year I was talking about some metalcore bands like pushing the envelope of the genre of metalcore and making very strange new kind of metalcore. That was Northlane and Devil Wears Prada last year. Loathe have really made their own kind of metalcore here. I Let It In and Took Everything is a bizarre album, but it's really something special. It's incredibly unique. It has like absolutely crushingly heavy stuff. If you listen to some of Heavy Is the Head That Falls with the Weight of 1,000 Thoughts. And then it can go really light, like shoegaze rock-y in songs like A Sad Cartoon. I do remember when it came out, I think it was in February, because I do remember listening to it on the car as I drove somewhere, so it was before March. And when it came out, the metalcore subreddit was just losing their minds over it, and I was so excited to listen to this album. And I put it on, I listened to it the whole way through the first time, and I was like, what is this? It's so disconnected. It goes from like this really light rock stuff to super heavy stuff. I don't know, I don't get it. But people kept talking about it, and like it kind of like stayed in my head. I was like, okay, I need to keep trying this. And so I think after like 4 listens or something, it kind of clicked with me. I was like, yes, this is actually something special. So this one will absolutely not be for everybody. Maybe some of the light songs you might like if you're not into the super heavy stuff. But my favorite one is the heaviest song, Heavy Is the Head, etc. Yeah, really unique song. It definitely helps that Loathe is associated with one of my all-time favorite bands, Holding Absence, who was my number 2 album last year. So they've done a split EP together, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for Loathe anyway, just because of that. Okay, coming in at number 2 is Afterburner by Dance Gavin Dance. I think this might be my favorite Dance Gavin Dance album. I actually only got into them 3 albums ago now. I only got into them with Mothership. I never really listened to anything before that. So I really liked Mothership. Artificial Selection came out, and I like that even more. And now Afterburner's come out, and I think I like this one the most. They just keep making amazing, solid albums, and they still manage to do slightly different stuff on each album. Mothership and Artificial Selection were pretty similar, but Afterburner has some pretty unique stuff in it. They've got a couple of really cool guest features, like on Into the Sunset, they have Bill Murray. Do you really wanna stay? Do you really wanna stay? And on the song Nothing Shameful, it features Andrew Wells, who is a member of Idola and is also Dance Gavin Dance's touring guitarist. So that's a really cool feature to have. He's got a great voice. Dance Gavin Dance is another post-hardcore band. God, there's a lot of post-hardcore on this list this year. That's kind of nice. It's usually just metalcore. but they have a very unique sound thanks to the guitarist Will Swan's very signature tone. If you listen to a Dance Gavin Dance song, you'll hear the guitar and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's Dance Gavin Dance. That's Will Swan playing guitar there. So yeah, this was a great album. I think it took a couple of listens for me to get into it. Like my friend Robbie is also a big Dance Gavin Dance fan, and I don't think it's really clicked with him. I don't know if he's tried it more than 1 or 2 times. But yeah, like after I'd listened to it like 3 or 4 times, I was like, yeah, I think this is probably my favorite Dance Gavin Dance album. Really, really good. Okay, I'm gonna do honorable mentions now. Usually I just say the names and move on, but because I'm not adding the wrestling video to this video, it's gonna be its own separate video. I can spend a little bit more time talking about them. So these are just in chronological order, so no like special ordering. First is Cycle of Suffering by Silosis. This is Silosis' first album in, I think, 7 years. I think 2013, maybe 2014 was the last one. I think it's their best album, actually. It's amazing. There's one song on it, Abandon, I think it is, the final song of the album, has clean singing, and that's a real standout one for me. There's usually no clean singing. It's I guess it's kind of like thrash metal. It's pretty heavy. It's not quite metalcore, but it's kind of close. But yeah, I loved this album. It was on my list for a while. Next is This Heavy Void by Body Snatcher. Both of these came out in January. This Heavy Void is deathcore, I think. Really, really, really heavy deathcore. It is one of the angriest albums I've ever heard. I absolutely loved it. It's so like biting with its lyrics. It's just ridiculously heavy. Fantastic album. It's also got really, really cool artwork. Next up is A Lunar Rose by Savior. I think this was maybe also January, maybe February. It was a solid early year of 2020. This is the band has 2 vocalists. It's got a harsh male vocalist and clean female vocalist. So it was recommended for fans of Make Them Suffer, which is a band I love. So I gave it a go, and it was really great. Next up is Metropolis by Galleons. Galleons is the main band of one half of Valiant Hearts, who was in my honorable mentions last year. So Valiant Hearts is a 2-person side project. One of the people is the vocalist of Galleons. So I checked out Metropolis, which came out 2020. It was great. It was very similar to Valiant Hearts, a little bit more post-hardcore, probably like a little bit closer to Dance Gavin Dance. Really cool stuff on there. Lemonade, I think it's called Lemonade, was a real standout. Really great lyrics on that one. Next up is How to Survive a Funeral by Make Them Suffer. I was talking about this earlier. This was originally my number 5, but I decided to switch it off for the Bring Me the Horizon album. I'm a huge Make Them Suffer fan. Love the first 3 albums. Love the EP. This came out and it's a good album, but I think it's easily my least favorite of all their albums. It's a bit short. It's like 10 songs. The first song's 1:13 or something like that. It didn't feel as groundbreaking as any of the previous 3 albums, which sucks because the previous Make Them Suffer album, Worlds Apart, is easily in my top 20 albums of all time, maybe top 10. It's that good. So this was a bit of a letdown for me, unfortunately. But still a good album, just didn't quite hit the highs of the previous ones. And the last honorable mention goes to Lovelorn by Before I Turn. Hadn't heard of this band before. It was recommended on the metalcore subreddit. I don't know why I checked it out. I think they came out with the Love EP earlier in the year, which was just half of the Lovelorn album, and I really liked that. So the full album, I thought, deserved an honorable mention. It's good, really good metalcore album. And that brings us to my album of the year, which goes to Valley of Kings by The Wise Man's Fear.
You should see their eyes, their blood and fix upon.
I have no idea how I hadn't heard of The Wise Man's Fear before 2020. They are described as fantasy core. They are a metalcore band with fantasy-inspired lyrics and album themes and stuff, which is so far up my alley. I don't know why I hadn't heard of this band before, but Valley of Kings is just an exceptional album. Easily my favorite of last year. It's awesome, like the whole album is just this fantasy metalcore, and then the second last track is full-on deathcore. It's got a feature from Sean Harmanis of Make Them Suffer. And it's so heavy, like I loved it. Like it maybe feels a little bit out of place on it, because like the rest is just fantasy metalcore, but fuck, Firefall is such a good song. One of the songs even has a flute breakdown. What an amazing song, what a cool idea. So yeah, Valley of Kings, such an awesome album. I think they may be hinting at getting a vinyl pressing of it out soon-ish, so I will definitely be looking out for that. Okay, so that was my top 5 albums of the year. Just got enough time to look at my Spotify Wrapped for 2020 just before my voice totally gives out. Very out of practice from recording, apparently. It can't even last 20 minutes now. Just before it starts, I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave the music on for it. It might be copyright claimed. So it might have the music that was on, it might not. We'll just see. Okay. Spotify Wrapped. I love this. This is very exciting for me because I'd never got to do it before. 2020 Wrapped. Thank you, Spotify. It is over by this point. My Wrapped is finally here. Been waiting years for this. Genre list. Okay, so my genres. Listened to 141 genres this year. They were all new. We could probably guess what number 1's going to be. Is it metalcore? It's metalcore. Progressive deathcore, I love that. Video game music, listen to a lot of soundtracks. Gent, that would be Periphery. One song helps you get through it all. Look, there you go, there's Valley of Kings. It was Breath of the Wild, it was the one with the flute breakdown. Love that. Thank you, Wise Man's Fear. I think I listened to it a lot in one day. First stream, May 31st, very good. Day with most streams, June 10th. 10th stream was June 10th as well. Total streams, 18. Very good. Other songs I had on repeat, okay. Look at those top songs. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I really, really liked Valley of Kings. Oh, that's great. I did add that. I will have a link to that playlist, actually. Just in case you want to listen to what my top songs were. Top podcast. It's got to be Cover Me. I listen to all of these, but I listen to Cover Me a lot. Shout out to Cover Me Podcast. Go give it a listen. It's my friends Jake and Alex do it. 1,500 minutes. That's pretty good. Look, half of that was just Cover Me. There's all my podcasts. The Restarby one. Good one. Top podcast genres were technology, apparently. I'm a tastemaker. I did, I think this relates to doing playlists. I made a playlist of all of the 2020 metalcore releases, which was pretty much all of those follows. Revisited some old favorites. Which decade did I listen to the most? It was 2000s. That was metalcore. I think that counts everything after 2000, so that would explain it. Top song for this time was Breathing in a New Mentality by Underoath. Not a big Underoath fan, but still listen to that a bit. I would have thought Periphery or Wise Man's Fear would be my top artist, but it was actually Dance Gavin Dance. For some reason. And I was in the top 3% of their listeners this year. I did listen to Afterburner a lot. 1,400 minutes listening to Dance Gavin Dance, amazing. I think this is probably going to be pretty in line with my top 5. Yeah, kind of. Northlane and Periphery are kind of leftovers from last year, I guess, but the other 3 were my tops. There they all are. 67 months. Okay, I think I listened to quite a lot. 31,000 minutes listened. That's pretty great. I like that. So that was pretty fun. I've always wanted to have a Spotify Wrapped. I was a Google Play Music subscriber for ages, and they just don't give a fuck about their users. So they don't do any cool things like Spotify Wrapped. But they switched over to YouTube Music, which is just not a good service, in my opinion, or it wasn't when they were switching over. So I dropped it and went for Spotify, and now I get Wrapped, so that's pretty cool. I'll have a link in the description to my Spotify top 100 songs, just in case you want to have a look at it, have a listen to what my 2020 music was like. But there you go, finally got to do my top 5 albums of 2020 video, about a month later than I would have liked, but still got it done. The next video will be my top 5 wrestling matches of 2020, which is another passion of mine, so I always love doing that video as well. So look out for that in a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, something like that. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I haven't said that in a long time. And I'll see you guys later. Bye!